Now, there's 13 presuppositions of NLP, 13 little things that make NLP really effective. We spoke about them the other week. I will probably share a bit of that presuppositions of NLP again. And I just want to take one. Chris mentioned this before. People respond to their experience, not to reality itself. Reality is so big, our brains can't take in everything, so it's got to select some. The same way you can see an animal, perhaps a cow, you can walk around it, but if you walk right in front of it and go, moo, then suddenly it's going to notice you. So there's so much in the world, our brain only sees a little bit. We don't see reality. We only see a portion of it. Now, this is a presupposition of NLP, and this is one thing we will help our clients do. If our client is going through life thinking they know the facts, I'm sorry, I don't even know the facts. So all behavior is the best choice currently available, or all behavior has a positive intention. Even when someone does something bad like self-harm, we believe has a positive intention. It's questionable what it is, but in their mind, there's a positive intention. An alcoholic grabbing another bottle of whiskey, well, he has a positive intention, numbing the pain or whatever. And this grabbing the whiskey, instead of grabbing an NLP coach, grabbing the whiskey is within reach. It's a behavior he knows. Sometimes we've got to recognize that our clients, all the bad or unresourceful things they do have a positive intention. Is that clear? Number 3, Chris.
People have all the resources that they need to succeed. There's no such thing as unresourceful people, only unresourceful states. What that means is that when you encounter a situation, you have all of the tools that you need to be able to overcome that situation. You might not have all of the things physically that you need. You might not have all of the knowledge that you need, but a resourceful person knows how to get the resources. When you are feeling unresourceful, you're feeling like there is no way. When you're feeling resourceful, you're able to look at the situation, identify what it is that you need, and pull things together to be able to overcome. Sometimes people are confronted with a problem at work, perhaps. They're given a task that they don't quite know how to achieve. The unresourceful state that people can find themselves in limits them to saying, I don't know how to do this. A resourceful state is when someone says, I don't know how to do this yet. Adrian, number 4, please.
And with that resourceful state, number 4 slides in perfectly. I'm in charge of my mind, therefore I'm in charge of my results. Notice I use the words, I'm in charge of my mind. And I'm sorry, but I actually struggle to control my mind, and I haven't been able to control my mind all my life. But I can take charge of it, especially if I'm in a good resourceful state. And sometimes I might need to play music to change my state, and I might play some music, I get in a better state. And you know what, when I'm in a better state, I can control my mind. I can go get a coffee, I can sit down and focus more. Yeah? You know, I really do believe that I'm in charge of my mind, therefore I'm in charge of my results. But sometimes I just need to change my state first. Number 5, Chris.
The only reliable information about a person is their behavior. People will often say one thing and do something else. Now, of that, is it the words or their actions, which is telling you what they're really thinking? This isn't just about telling lies and being able to tell if somebody's lying. It's everything. When they talk about going out on a first date, some people think that you can tell what a person is really thinking about you by where they've put their feet. If their feet are facing towards you, they're interested in you. If their feet are facing towards the door, they're looking to get out of there. If you ask them, are you having a great time? But their feet are pointing out the door, if they say yes, they're really saying no. This isn't universally true, but words lie, behavior doesn't lie. Numero 6.
I'm going to pay you for that coaching session later. I'll believe it when I see it.
A deal isn't a deal till the money's in the bank account.
And you'll find sometimes if you're coaching that your clients will be like, yeah, but then the money doesn't end up in the account. You know, they're going to, you know what, I'm going to think about this and no, okay, we're going to do the coaching, we're starting on Monday. I'll put money in your bank account on Sunday. Don't celebrate until Sunday. Don't celebrate until money's in the bank. Because a lot of the times people will say something, but it's not until money's in the bank that you celebrate. And I hate to say it, but when people actually put money in the bank, then their behavior is, I'm taking real action. And if one behavior is taking real action, there's going to be more of it. 6, mind and body are one system. And you could actually say it's more than one system. There's this concept of hold-ons on hold-ons. There's always a bigger system, and the bigger system has the inner system. So we have our sympathetic nervous system, but that's part of our central nervous system. Our body and mind are part of one system, and some people might even say that's part of a bigger system, and it's got smaller systems inside. But our mind and body are one system, and in NLP we find a lot of the times people may have things with their body and mind going on that they're often not aware of. Sometimes their body says yes, but their mouth says no. So what's the whole system doing? We want to coach the whole system. Number 7.
Talking about this a little earlier, to respect the other person's reality, to respect the other person's model of the world. This is something that can be challenging for people. And this is why in America, particularly America, the Democrats and the Republicans, the conservatives and the liberals, they don't respect each other's view of the world. Some person says that healthcare should be for everybody. Other person says only people who can pay for it should get the healthcare. They don't agree on the fact that people need healthcare. They only agree that they hate each other. Respect the other person's model of the world. As challenging as that can be.
You don't have to necessarily like it, but respect is certainly a good place to start, isn't it?
It is. We will, and I just want to underline that particular thing, because a little bit later on the track, we're going to be talking about empathy. And it starts with respecting someone else's model of the world.
Number 8, the meaning of communication is the response you get. The meaning of communication is the response you get. The co-creators of NLP, John Grinder and Richard Bandler, they created NLP together, and now some people say that they can't communicate together. John Grinder politely points out, Richard and I communicate well. He ignores and doesn't give an F about me, and I ignore and don't give an F about him. What else is there to understand? They just ignore each other and go about their lives, no problem. Interesting. And a lot of people fall into the trap of forgetting this point. And a lot of the times people communicate one way. And we may project or actually project our voices to someone saying that, you know, or blaming them or communicating to them that they're not good enough or they're not blah, 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 or they're not blah, 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 blah. And we sometimes lose track of what we actually really want. But perhaps some part of us actually that just wants to degrade that person or punish that person or put down that person, perhaps. And by the way, sometimes I will not communicate clearly, but generally when I'm communicating with people, it's really pro. You can. And that's part of the reason is because I know sometimes I mumble, but if people are aware of my underlying intention, a lot of the times people can take it and go, oh, Adrian is just saying something positive about something. So number 9.
You cannot not communicate. You cannot not communicate. Everything that you do, everything that you say, and how you say it are sending messages, whether you like it or not. And I'll pick on myself for a moment. When Faye, who's now moved up there, when Faye was showering me with praise before, I wasn't saying anything, but Tapan, who's inconveniently just left, was able to see exactly what I was saying. I didn't want to say anything, but I was saying loads. You cannot not communicate. Next, Adrian.
I'm just thinking about sometimes when I asked my mum what she thought and she just went on doing her household things. There is no failure, and I love this one. There is no failure, only feedback. And this is one thing I might like to get as a tattoo. There's no failure, only feedback. If you try a campaign and it doesn't get results, you take it as feedback. If you do a seminar and no one turns up, you can take it as feedback. And if you take it as feedback, what happens?
You learn.
You learn and improve.
Adrian, you have failed to set up your microphone clearly so that we can hear you without echo.
Is it better now?
Yeah, oh, heaps better now.
Okay, good. So I really took the whole thing as feedback. You know, and a fraction of my brain goes, oh, well, that's probably going to mess up the first recording. But I'm just like, no, just focus on what we want. Just focus on what we want. Focus on what we want. Just keep focused on what we want. There's no failure, only feedback. Number 11.
The more complex the situation you have to cope with, the more behavioral flexibility you need. Think about that for just a second. The more complex the situation, the more flexibility. Adrian, I'll just pick on you for a moment because you're there and I don't mind picking on you. It's either that or Yolanda and she'll yell at me later. But when presented with a complex situation, and I'm going to use this situation that you're in at the moment. For those of you who don't know, today is day 1 of Adrian moving into this office space, moved into this office space specifically for the purposes of this training. No other reason other than to give the best training that was possible. Now, I don't know if anyone ever moved office before, but that is not a simple thing to do. There's a lot of things that is it a public holiday up there? Who knew? But it is not something that is easy to do. Even just taking the technology component of this, there is a lot of stuff that can go right, and there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. When presented with a complex problem, Adrian had a few different options. He could either A, give up, B, stick with what he had despite its deficiencies, or 3, he could make the changes that he had within his capability to make on the fly. Not doing anything, digging your heels in, pressing on, or doing the third and approaching the situation with some flexibility means that I revert back a couple. There is no such thing as failure, only feedback. Think about a complex situation that you have had in your life and think about whether or not you simply gave up or whether you approached it from a different angle and got the outcome that you needed. Next one, Adrian.
I'm thinking. You got the external world and the internal world. So in the external world, I've got 2 cameras here, 2 laptops here, 2 internet connections, 2 spare lights, maybe 3 spare tripods. That's the external. And on the internal, have you guys ever had a computer problem? You have a computer problem, and what happens when you get frustrated?
It gets even worse, and more things sum up, and more things happen.
What happens if you oh, this is all effed. I'm gonna go get a coffee. I'm gonna go meditate. I'm gonna go outside and water the garden. You come back in 10 minutes later, and Microsoft's done its thing, or Mac, and it's back. So. And guys, I was speaking to a lady last week, a client, and she was struggling, thinking that she was complex. So the lady was saying that she was getting too complex and struggling to find a good man. Took it through an NLP process that we'll cover, I think, around week 8, and you guys will learn it and love it. She starts now to embrace the complexity, recognizing that, yeah, I'm complex, and every year I get more complex, and that's one of the beautiful things in life. Just the men need to be more flexible. But overall, you've got the overall ecology of it all. You got the ecology. So, I could talk with this woman about, no, just be a really simple girl and don't be authentic to yourself. Just be really, really simple. But if she fakes it and pretends that she's a really simple girl and easy to please, she may get a man. But there's a higher chance the relationship won't work because she'll be faking it, right? So the overall ecology is to work on her inner game around handling complexity and perhaps stepping up to a better quality man or finding a better quality, pile of fish. So this ecology thing is very important. You'll keep hearing ecology in NLP. Any changes we make or any changes we help our people make, they need to move towards a couple of things. More choice, more flexibility, and more of that wholeness. Sometimes we make decisions that are not ecological. Sometimes we do it because it's easier, but we need to look at the whole ecological, the whole big picture. And the last one.
This is a test, isn't it, Adrian? Because there's only 12 on the sheet. There's only 12 on the sheet.
I made up one more. It came from
I know,
some more
and it's my
advanced
favorite.
trainings.
Don't. Were you about to say it? Because it's my favorite. Don't steal my favorite. All you are is change. 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 It doesn't matter how you put it, how you say it, everything about you is constantly changing. And for those who were here a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that this is not a new concept. And the earliest record of this that I could find was back in Greek philosophy days. A guy called Heraclitus said, you cannot step into the same river twice. You cannot step into the same river twice because the river, as it flows past, is changing. But you are also changing. So the you that stepped into the river will be different from the you that steps into the river the second time. I do enjoy that philosophical nonsense.
Now that might seem really obvious, but what happens if someone has depression? It's like every time they get into the river, they have to look for a rock that says depression. That's right, I'm depression.
He or she can be more depressed. That's another change.
There's so much going on in the world. They focus on one little bit. And they focus on it, and every morning they have to wake up and remember it or remind themselves. Or perhaps after a while they get a pill that helps them remember. That's right, I'm the same way we might take a pill saying, I'm a coach. Well, you know what? I'm a coach today, but we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Every time you say, I am a coach, I am depressed, I am unhappy, I am motivated. Every time that you say something like that, you actually are saying, I have been a coach and I will be a coach. But the idea that I am something isn't true, because there is no static in your life. There is no constant in your life. You need to work for it either way. To say, I'm sad, you've got to hold on to that. If you want to be sad, go ahead. That is your choice. But you've got to want it. Because you were yesterday does not mean you will be today. Does not mean you will be tomorrow. When they talk about investments, one of the things that they always say when they're trying to sell you investments, they say past performance is no indicator of future performance. They talk to you about that when you're making investment decisions, but people never consider that about themselves. Past performance is no indicator of future performance. Every one of us is change. Who's changing? Anyone?
Yeah. Hi, Chris.
Okay, we've got a few changes changing. That's good.
Chris, I have a question
And,
for you. No, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead, Tapan.
Okay, so we did this presuppositions last week as well, and we did it again today quickly. My question to you is, how does, it's probably a stupid question, how do all the presuppositions fit into our coaching journey?
If you're able to hold on to these presuppositions as a baseline for the way that you approach the world, the way that you approach other people, then you will be able to frame your coaching within these parameters, so that if you approach a coaching situation where your coachee is saying, I'm fat, I always will be fat, My mother was fat. My father was fat. My future is fat. There is no reason that that should be the case, just based on the presupposition of all we are is change. But you as the coach need to remember to respect the other person's model of the world. If that is what they believe, knowing what you know and knowing what they think they know, that gives you the framework with those presuppositions to approach your coaching technique, to use the techniques and tools to help them with their roadblock of this is who I am. You can bring in some of those techniques about increasing someone's flexibility, but you need to also do that by maintaining the ecology presupposition. You don't want to get them to starve themselves if they're going to die, because that's not ecological. You don't want them to suffer in order to become what you think they want to be. All of these are just dots that you need to weave a web to see where this person fits in on their journey. Anything to add to that, Adrian?
Yeah. When you do your first sessions with a client, you may, in NLP words, we might have a meta model violation, which we'll get into in future. But as you have your initial discussion with your client, you may recognize that they're something, or they're something, or they're something. And you may notice them as areas that could change, and you might make a note of them. And then as you work with your client, in your notes, you might have, these kind of presuppositions that they're not doing. And then you may work to possibly challenge some of them and have them taking more responsibility, or perhaps have them taking more ecological outlook, or perhaps having them recognizing that their communication, something. And this is something that, as Chris said, this is something that we really want to operate from. We really want to operate with these in our mind, as it will help our clients get results. And the way this was created was through looking at people like Milton Erickson, Virginia Satir. It's not, but like looking at Tony Robbins, his beliefs, he would probably score a 10 out of 10 for all of them. Yeah, me, I probably score a 10 out of 10, but in real life, I forget from time to time. I forget, so I'm continually working on high scores for myself.